What is up, everyone? Nick here, aka the Bearded Guru, and today we are going to talk about Dataeum. So, actually, a really cool project, very fun, in fact, if you've ever used Google Guides, same sort of idea behind that, only you get paid for making this network better. So, let's go ahead and jump in here. Dataeum, the data revolution. So, here we go. White paper, July 27th, 2018 is the version we're on, 2.3. As of August 24th, 2018, this information is current. So as of today, it is current. Disclaimer, you guys can read through that yourself. Standard disclaimer there as well. And we will skip through the appendix and jump into the executive summary. So I'll touch on a couple points here for you guys. So today we live in what many call the information age, where digital data production is at the heart of all ecosystems. Businesses of all sizes, large and small, are using some form of data to drive growth. By 2020, our accumulated digital universe data will grow from 4.4 trillion gigabytes to around 44 trillion. So an increase of tenfold. Huge. Okay. A lot of this data, however, is poor quality data, and estimates say around $3.1 billion or $1 trillion, is lost annually in revenue because of the poor quality of this data. Okay. So think of all the people in the world, all the places in the world, all the information that's flowing. Only 0.5 of that data, or 0.5% of the world's data, is analyzed or exploited. Okay, so on maps, only 8% of pinpoint areas are accurate, and 80% of online listings display inconsistent, inaccurate, or missing physical data. That is because the data is still crude, unrefined, and hard to find. Okay, so I don't know if you guys have ever come across this. I do. Not all the time. Occasionally I come across it. If I'm looking at a place, let's say I want to get something to eat, if I want to buy something, and I say, hey, I Google something and say, this is what's in my area. This is what I want. This is what I want to get to eat. If they don't have business hours, generally I just throw them out the door. I don't even look at it. If you don't have information that I find relevant, if you can't even put your office hours or your store hours on your website, generally I don't even give you a second glance. Okay, a lot of people are that way too. If we can't find what we want right then, right there, I will go to some place with inferior quality food because they have taken the time to put their information out there. Their business hours, their address, whatever the case is. So, data collection has been a tremendous value to many companies, but oddly enough, they are getting all this data without our consent. Okay, so think of your phone. If you guys have a newer phone, I have the Galaxy S8. All of the places that I go, if I turn my location on, all that information is saved. I can go back on my calendar and I can see where I went from day to day, see, what places I stopped, how long I was on the road. All of that information is being collected with, I don't know about the consent part, because you do sign or you do accept a usage consent, like on your phone, for example. So they do have the right to collect that data, but all that data generally is kind of hidden away. It is transferred over to Google, for example, and they analyze it and they monetize it. I'm not getting anything out of it. So they say, doesn't it seem a little unfair that there is no reward for those of us who generate these data? This is why we are introducing you to Dataeum. Now, another very important point I want to make here. You will notice that they say these data, okay? The word data is plural, okay? You can have two data, but one datum. Datum, or datum, is the singular form of data, okay? So it's not these, or it's not this data, it's these data. It's not this bananas, it's these bananas. Same sort of thing. If you're ever confused, just change the word data to bananas, and if it makes sense, it's correct. Little side note there. So, anyway, using crowdsourcing, Dataeum will offer the first collaborative and decentralized platform for data generation. Any individual will now be able to collect a high quantity of physical data through a mobile application and get rewarded in tokens. This innovative solution will make it possible to gather 100% of the real world data with 100% accuracy. Okay, I think that's a very ambitious statement, but So far, so good. So, disintermediation will be brought to the data ecosystem by the Dataeum platform, where data will flow freely and securely between data collectors and acquirers. Dataeum's role is to create an ultra scalable and highly reliable platform and secure the relationship between both parties being the collectors and acquirers. Okay. So, over the past 2 years, the mobile app has been up and running. We have collected all the data on POIs, or points of interest, in cities such as London and Paris and Barcelona. They already have a licensed database to several companies, and the model has proven scalability and profitability. Okay, so they're already got a working app in alpha right now. Okay. So the data market is now estimated to be worth more than $3 trillion. Now note all these little superscripts here, like the 5, the 7. That means that there are footnotes down at the bottom with, excuse me, that have references. If you need references, you can click on the links down there as well, and that will take you to where they're getting their information. I really like the fact that they're putting the references on each page instead of putting it at the very end. It's very helpful if you want to cross-reference something. If something doesn't sit right with you, you can say, hey, excuse me, got hair in my mouth. You can cross-reference that and say, hey, this is where they're getting their information, that sort of thing. So kudos to these guys for doing that. So anyway, it'll be worth more than $3 trillion. And with 90% of its production achieved in the last 2 years, the growth will increase tenfold by 2025. Data is now considered the quote-unquote new oil. All right? So as data production arises, the quality of our data is still poor. In the US, the annual spending on bad quality data is estimated at $3.1 trillion. That's a lot of money, okay? So they're getting the information, but generally the information is subpar. It's not necessarily what we would consider good. Now, I don't know what constitutes good data versus bad data. I would say that data that has timestamps, locations, that sort of thing would prove useful versus a piece of datum that says he went from point A to point B. I don't know. I don't know where they're getting their good data versus bad data. I wasn't able to find that out. But anyway, so this is not all, but this is a lot of the companies that use the information that's collected passively. This tripped me out at first. This is actually Compass. It's not Kawasaki. When I first looked at that, I was incredibly confused because I thought, Kawasaki, they make motorcycles and stuff. What are they doing with my information? But it's not. It's Compass. So anyway, so it's used by these different players. So maps for mapping and geolocation services use data to complete, update, and enrich their services. Okay, again, going back to Google, you can tell your phone to say, hey, I want to find out the hours and address of a specific pizza place, for example. Okay, that's part of it. Companies seeking to complete their BTOB databases for prospecting, listing, mailing, telemarketing, statistics, etc. AI services, BTOC using geotargeting, public services and governments for statistics, census, urban landscape, development purposes, that sort of thing. So in particular, let's say how much traffic is going through a specific intersection. They say, hey, we want to do some sort of urban landscaping, let's say. They need to know how many cars are going through an intersection. Can they route the traffic a different way? That sort of thing. And then, of course, we get, individual physical data for location interaction with, what people do when they interact with their environment. What stores do they go to? What do they buy? How long are they there? That sort of thing. So used to locate, move, or get information, physical data are the essence of maps, and their reputation will depend on the accuracy and updates of these data. Okay, so you think of how much, excuse me, you think of how much work goes into Google Maps, for example. It tells you, cross-references where you are in traffic, how much traffic is ahead of you, how long that takes to get a specific point. It's very, very complicated. I know that I keep using Amazon as an example, but again, I used to work for Amazon, and Amazon Prime, the ability to get something from a warehouse in Kentucky to my front door in Oregon, 3,000 miles in 2 days is absolutely incredible. The logistics and the information that Amazon collects would blow your mind. I mean, it's first class. It's very, very, very good. They have analytics for everything, everything. It's pretty awesome. Believe it or not, Amazon is actually the second most used search engine after Google. So if somebody wants to find something, they will generally go to Amazon for a physical product. If they need to find directions, generally they will go to Google to find directions or information. So it's up there. Okay, so talking about data again, such is the case for physical stores. In the U.S. alone, at least 40% of them have at least one incorrect or missing address listed online, leading to $10.3 billion worth of lost sales. There's been cases where I've looked for a store, the address was incorrect because the store had moved, and that's it. I didn't know where the store was, so I went somewhere else, and that store did not get my business because they did not update their information. All right. 80% of online listings for top retailers, display inconsistent, inaccurate, or missing data. When it comes to Facebook, 90% of physical data is either inconsistent or missing, and 75% for Google+. Only 8% of map pin placements are correct. So if you open Google Maps and you want to say, I need to find restaurants or hotels within a 50-mile area, and you see those little pins, only 8% of those are correct. That seems like a very, very low amount to me, because generally things are correct when I'm looking at them. So I don't know if that's internationally or what the case is there. But anyway, we'll move down to this cool graph here. You can see the physical data generation, the limits of that. So using external databases, the limits of that are redundancies, different sources, not only actual reliability. Content is sometimes inaccessible for websites, and my phone is beeping. Give me just a moment. I forgot to turn that off. There we go. Problem solved. We've got, Google Street. If you've ever used that before, you can see the car driving around. It's got all the cameras and the stuff there, and registration by stores themselves. And a lot of the limitations that the processes are too complex, and it's not suitable for non-tech savvy population. So a mom and pop ice cream shop, for example, they may not even have a cell phone. They may not know how to upgrade or update their information online. They may have wonderful ice cream, but if nobody knows they're there, it's a lot of lost revenue. So now we'll jump into this section here, which I thought was very important, the challenges that persist due to the very nature of physical data. So 58% of physical stores do not optimize for local SEO. And SEO, as you can see down here, was search engine optimization. Okay, so let's just use Google, a Google search. Little more than half of the stores are not set up for Google. Okay, so that means that the information is not available nor updated in online listings. Business hours and phone numbers can change regularly. I don't know if you've ever encountered that. Personally, I have, where holiday hours generally are going to be different than your standard summer hours, or depending on the business, winter hours can be different than summer hours, that sort of thing. 15% of roads are modified each year in developing countries, so roads can be dismantled, they can be repaved, they can go a different way, overpasses, underpasses can be removed, changed, that sort of thing, depending on traffic flow and traffic needs. And new housing appears every day in connection with an ever-increasing urbanization of emerging countries. So, these countries that are starting to come online, the housing is getting better, communities are getting better, but the information about these communities is not getting better, or it's non-existent, it's stagnant. Okay? So you can kind of see here the graph of how Dataeum is going to be used, so decentralized ownership along with crowdsourcing kind of in this quadrant here. You can kind of see, so like Google it's owned, but it's not crowdsourced, that sort of thing. So you can kind of see where those lie. All right, so what is the solution for all of this? What is Dataeum's solution? So Dataeum has set up a unique and innovative solution, to collect 100% of the world's physical data. Again, very ambitious, but in theory, it can be done. You can kind of see here community collectors. So that would be like me and you, people that go out and update a store on the network, say, hey, these are the hours, take a picture of the hours, the address, location, phone number, that sort of thing. That information goes into a smart contract, it gets verified, you get paid. Okay? So this decentralized network will democratize access to data while rewarding those who generate it. Backed by the blockchain, it will guarantee the transparency of the data generation process, its collection, and its accuracy. Okay, so let's jump into 3.1, page 10, I think this is. Yes, page 10. So when it comes to data generation, crowdsourcing remains underutilized, but it is the only way to access to physical data from any location with unprecedented coverage. So over half the world has access to smartphones that are internet capable. Okay, so this can very easily be done. If it's a simple app, you simply download the app and get started. That's all you need. I mean, I'm sure you have to register an account and all that, but that's totally easy to do. Once you've got the app, you can do this. I mean, if you are in the United States, if you are in India, if you've got a phone with internet access and the ability to take a picture or type text with, which, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 99% of smartphones can do that now. Even if it's a crude picture, you can still do it. I mean, it's a game changer. It really is. All right, so let's go ahead and jump down here a little bit as well. So there's kind of, the graph of the mobile phone app, kind of what you can do. You can take a picture of an address, name, categories, things like that. And then there is an algorithm that calculates how much reward you get from or for a specific action. So the GDP, the hourly average wage, demand and rarity, data licensing, hourly wage in the area, online availability and accessibility, things like that. All right, so they've got some proof of solution. This is kind of their use case that's been verified in their alpha. Their launch city was Barcelona, and they collected data from 150,000 stores in 6 weeks with 2,000 people, 2,000 collectors. Okay, and 40% of the stores collected were not displayed on any map. That's a huge amount. 40% of 150,000 is a huge number. I mean, that's what, 50, 60,000, 55,000 stores? I mean, think of all the money that was lost because these stores weren't online. They might have just been a local thing. I mean, it's huge. So once they figured that out, they went to London. They wanted to see the scalability of their model, and they had 50,000 stores, that information that they collected in 2 weeks, which validated the expansion model and the scalability. Very cool. And finally, they went to Paris. Okay, they wanted to validate the collection model. So in 3 weeks, they collected information from 120,000 stores, and 28% of those stores collected in the center of Paris did not appear on any map. Okay, this is the center of Paris. You think that Paris, London, Barcelona are these huge megapolises of people. You think that everything would be cataloged, but it's not. 28%, a third of the stores in the center of London didn't show up anywhere. They were just kind of there by themselves, word of mouth sort of thing. Okay, so for each data collection cost, a 2.5 ROI, return on investment, can be reached for yearly data licensing rewards towards the unique acquirer. So keep that in mind. That's kind of cool. All right, so we will jump down here to physical data decentralization. All right. Section 3.2. So data is collected through our mobile application and validated in a two-step process. The collector 1 is the first data input. Collector 2 verifies it. Okay, so I go to a store, I take a picture of the hours, all right, and I send it on the app, the Dataeum app, and then Will, the other guru, comes along, takes another picture and says, yes, Nick's information was correct. That information is now validated, stored in the blockchain, and we both get some reward because we validated that information. Okay, we also each collector receives a quality score to maintain a high level of reliability. Okay, so if I consistently take good photos, good information, good quality data, which is the opposite of what's happening with the poor data. If I have good quality data, my reliability and my quality score will go up, making me a more valuable asset on the network. Also, vice versa. If I don't, if I take pictures of, half a phone number or whatever the case is, it's not very useful. My quality score will go down. I'm not a very valuable asset on the network in that case. All right. And the verified data is then made accessible on the decentralized marketplace and regularly updated to keep it accurate. So the information is constantly updated for reliability. Okay? So there's some more information here on the data generation, how it's generated, how it's stored. They use proof of existing data, proof of constant data, and proof of trust. Okay. So collector has two functions. He can initiate the data collection. So I input the data, or whoever inputs the data that has never been collected before. Okay, so one of those stores in the middle of Paris that has never been mapped or put online. Okay, I will initiate that, take a picture of it, that sort of thing. And then someone else will come along, verify that I made the correct, took the correct pictures, that sort of thing. They verify the data, and they check that, or it verifies the data that's collected and check out collected data that's not yet verified. So the first collector, me, who initiated the data, will get 70% of the collection value, the CV. The second collector, who verified the data, will collect the remaining 30%. Okay, so I would get, so if it was 10 tokens, I would get 7. The second person to verify the data would get 3. And you can kind of see how they've got this broken down here in this little graph. All right, so a value of 10 XD, I get 7, they get 3. Okay, good. Moving on. They've got some proof of constant data here as well. You have an accuracy rate. So the accuracy rate of a piece of data or a piece of datum rather, will deteriorate, and that needs to be kept up to date. And there's an algorithm that will guide collectors to maintain up-to-date information. Okay. So here's an example. 100% after 1 month, that information is only 95% accurate. Month 2, it's only 90% accurate. And I come along, I re-verify all that data, all those data, and then I get XTD or XDT out of that. Okay? And then here, as I talked about earlier, with the quality score going up, verified data is good, quality goes up. Incorrect data, quality goes down. So in order to alterate their actions, collectors will be guided to initiate, verify, and update data. Thus, collectors will have to undertake all the different type of data actions, which is initialization, verification, and update. So a collector will have 3 roles in that case. All right. There's a use case here. I'm not going to read that. You guys can go ahead and read through that on your own. That is just kind of for some funsies. It kind of gives you an idea of how the system works. And then we'll jump down here to page 17. So by linking crowdsourcing to the blockchain and using these techniques to provide proof for the generation of physical data, Dataeum's solution makes it possible to collect and verify 100% of the physical data in any part of the world. Okay, so the solution was Dataeum. Methods, crowdsourcing, blockchain, proof of trust, proof of constant data, existing data, that sort of thing. Physical data collection can be 100%, reliability and accuracy 100%. These are other things, maps, brokers, or data brokers, institutions, not as good. Okay, so the evolution and optimization of the data generation. So deep learning is used to analyze the data and user behavior and will help improve the solution. Image recognition technology will facilitate data collection, and the AI will ease and optimize its verification. Man, I got the hiccups. So within the app, you can kind of see here, it's got these cool overlays that shows information, pedestrian lights, for example, a traffic light. It's an easy yay or nay. And you can update that on the network. It's pretty easy. All right. So here's the implementation of the solution. So first, Dataeum will implement the collection of stores into the blockchain. Then Dataeum will improve its application and open its solution to all available physical data: roads, traffic signs, traffic lights, benches, rubbish bins, that sort of thing. Okay. The collection of physical data worldwide will open new fields of data exploitation, such as census of all elements in the urban landscape. So vegetation, cycle paths, electric terminals. If you've got a Tesla car, for example, you want to know where you can charge your car. That would be super useful so you don't run out of electricity while you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Waste bins, telephone booths, sanitary facilities, potties, sports complexes, etc. Optimization of journeys for people with reduced mobility. Okay, so if you're in a wheelchair, for example, it would be very handy to know where you can take footpaths and where the stairs are. Generally, you don't see a lot of people in wheelchairs going downstairs. If they do, they're generally in a pretty bad position. So you can identify visual failures of elements of the public space, damages to roadway, if there's bridges that are out, uncollected garbage, defective ticket machines, whatever. That information can be given to the local authorities so they can get that fixed. Pretty cool, actually. So, 3.2.2 Decentralized Marketplace. The Dataeum Decentralized Marketplace aims to democratize access to all the physical data in the world. Okay, ATMs, monuments, road signs, stores, gas stations, etc. In addition to giving access to data consultation, the marketplace offers XDT token holders the following possibilities. You can license the data for use and exploitation, or you can acquire, so the acquisition of data ownership so DOE. All right, so the licensing or rental of the data will be addressed to different types of market players. Okay, so mapping companies, private companies, urban planning, local authorities, that sort of thing. So the information that Dataeum collects can be sold to these other entities, these other agents or players within the system. Okay, so in order to exploit the data available on the marketplaces, these players or data acquirers will have to license its use. Okay, the licensing price will be calculated according to a market value. Okay, so data will have a value attached to it. Makes sense. So, from the platform, data acquirers will be able to specify their needs and directly obtain the desired data. Okay, so an example here, you can see all these different points of interest and what it would cost to license that. The tool will also provide API access to constantly keep the data up to date. The revenues generated by data rental will be reused to finance new collections, verifications, and updates. Dataeum will also charge commissions to ensure the proper function of the network and its development, which makes sense. The data ownership exploitation, DOE, will enable the acquirer to be rewarded based on all the income generated by the exploitation of the data. The DOE option gives each XDT holder the possibility to invest in the activity of the network and the value created by the exploitation of the data. The more the activity develops, the more physical data will be exploited and the more DOE holders will be compensated. Okay? So here's some graphs on how that works. The acquirer will get tokens because that data is verified. And then if you are the holder, you'll get tokens for that information because they will basically go paid for it. So the DOE acquisition cost will be directly calculated by the platform based on a fixed and variable value depending on the recurrence of its commercialization and the income generated by its exploitation. The DOE can also be resold by its holder, who will have the option to determine its resale price. So as a data acquirer, you have the ability to determine the price of your data. The collectors who initiate the physical data collection will be offered a priority option to acquire its DOE. If they use it, they will become DOE holders and the beneficiaries of the revenue generated by the data exploitation once the physical data is validated. On the other hand, if they do not use the option, the DOE will be proposed to the collectors that verified the data. Okay, so if you initiate it, you get first dibs. If you don't want it, it goes to the user or the option goes to the user who verified the data. Okay? So the first evolution of the marketplace. So the Dataeum marketplace will initially be dedicated to physical data attributes for physical stores or POIs, points of interest. The first market players to interact with the marketplace and licensing data will be companies that offer navigation services or maps, companies that offer products and services for physical local businesses, Groupon, Compass, Deliveroo, that sort of thing. And the advantages of the data solution for these market players are of the following flavor. They're unique, transparent, reliable, fast and scalable, simple, and decentralized, okay, which is basically blockchain in a nutshell. All right. And then in addition to the evolving to a fully automated data licensing solution, the marketplace will pave way for new evolutions. Okay, because of those APIs, they can be, products can be created to suit a specific need. So what's the technology behind all of this? All right, the Dataeum platform will be built on different technological layers to ensure the efficiency, security, and flexibility of data collection until their availability on the marketplace. All right, so the main challenges that need to be addressed are speed, scalability, flexibility, accessibility, cost control, and immutability. Again, blockchain in a nutshell. So how is all this information going to be stored? It's got to go somewhere. So Dataeum is going to use BigChain DB. Okay, it is a blockchain-based database. All right. If you click on that, it will take you to bigchaindb.com. You can check that out. A lot of good information there. I checked that out for a little while. I think that's a very good solution. Instead of using a server farm, a centralized server farm, they're going to be using a decentralized database. I like that. Okay. So one of the points raised was to make data flexibility coexist with immutability, because these two notions come into conflict. Indeed, immutability prevents the updating and deletion of data, common to any traditional database. BigchainDB responds to this conflict by implementing the CRAB, the create, read, append, burn method, and it allows data to be updated by creating a new version of that data. Okay, so your data can get crabbed, I guess. And then here's some information about the media storage. So to summarize, the following interoperable modules will be used by Dataeum. The Dataeum the XDT token is ERC20 based. They have a wallet, BigchainDB for storage spaces, IPSF based media file content storage spaces as well. Okay. And Dataeum will not exclude the possibility of new technical choices, since their solutions under development promise similar functionalities and benchmarks. Okay. So here's kind of the workflow. They've got a cool graph here of kind of how this all works. So the stored data will then have its status updated, pending, or validated if there's a match. Once validated, a new version of the data is created to replace the previous one on the blockchain. The validation of data triggers the remuneration of collectors via an oracle and using the smart contract technology. All right, so again, you can kind of see how this goes. We've got these different layers. BigchainDB, got IPSF, smart contracts, all within the blockchain space. All right. So based on large and global community, the physical data generation and its exploitation is the backbone of Dataeum's ecosystem. Once the potential of the data platform is maximized, innovative solutions can be potentially added to the community, paving the way to other parts of the digital economy where the blockchain will preserve the independence and free will of its members. I like it. So here's the flow data. Every day, billions of flow data are passively generated by users, browsing behaviors, online purchases, opinions on specialized forums or platforms, movements, visits to point of sales, points of interest, etc. Everywhere you go, everything is logged pretty much. So these data are used for marketing purposes by advertising players, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon. Although the individual is not at the origin of the data, he is not paid, or he is at the origin of the data, he is not paid when it is used, and he doesn't even know his data is being collected. Okay? But I mean, it makes sense. You know, everything you do online, every website you go is logged somewhere. I mean, everything is tracked. Okay? So here's just kind of a reiteration, a 20-fold increase of growth even though we talked about a tenfold. I don't know why they said 20 here. That seems a little bigger. Talk about the quality score. This isn't too important to touch on. It's just, again, they talked about it already. So member to member interaction, 5.3, page 27. The decentralized platform will also evolve to link community members together. From a dedicated interface, they will be able to either offer their service or access the service offered by other members of the community, which I think is great. Be able to talk to other people. You provide a service, you can get paid in XDT tokens if you wish, and vice versa. So 5.4, merchant interactions. So 30% of consumers do not consider a business with inconsistent information, and additionally, 32% do not consider buying from a business with wrong contact information listed online. This is so true, especially of my generation. We simply don't like having wrong information. If I get a phone number and I call that phone number, I expect that phone number to correspond with the information I was given on a website or a flyer or whatever the case is. If it's not, it goes out the window. I don't have the time to be, fumbling around looking for phone numbers and looking for addresses, I don't like doing it. I don't have time. So, through its community and marketplace and by making all physical data accessible, Dataeum addresses this lack of visibility. However, it does not allow merchants to directly reach their customers. Therefore, Dataeum will provide merchants a solution allowing them to directly interact with the community by proposing promotional offers and loyalty programs. Super cool, right? Right. Good. I'm glad we agree on that. Good talk. So let's say you've got a pizzeria and you're on Dataeum and you say, hey, you know what? If you are a Dataeum user, you can buy pizza for XDT, or I will give you a discount, or, it's going to be cheaper here. You can kind of see how this works, right? You can say, hey, if you buy a pizza from me, you can get a discount, that sort of thing. All right. So from the interface, each merchant will have the ability to define a discount for customer members or community members, define a number of consumers to be reached, define a target group of members to diffuse the promotion to. So I used to run a company, and we sold beef jerky, and I used a company called Square. Perhaps you've heard of it. And with Square, it was very similar to Dataeum in that you could create specialized promotions for people. You could create advertising campaigns, emails, text messages, that sort of thing. So the idea that Dataeum is implementing is similar to that of Square. I really liked Square. I loved the interface. I really think that the ability to create promotions and contact your customers in a non-threatening way is huge. I used it quite a bit, and I got quite a few new customers doing that. It was awesome. I really liked it, and I think this is going to be a huge boon to Dataeum if they can get that implemented correctly. Okay. So I should have highlighted this, but I didn't. So to conclude, whether it is a data collector or acquirer, merchant, or customer, the human being is at the heart of the entire Dataeum decentralized network. If he is at the center, it is because he is the solution to all the challenges, from data generation to the development of the sharing economy. Okay, and then there's a quote here from Dataeum CEO, Charlie Pham. The Dataeum network tends to extend to other blockchain players, offering complementary functionalities and around a common core, or a common value, people. This bond will be built by the human interaction, with no intermediaries to influence individuals in their choices or desires. Leading the blockchain community forward will be the very first decentralized collaborated movement. Okay. So just about done here. There's some tokens. The usage and functionality. The Dataeum token will be the basis of the exchange within the whole network. Makes sense. You can do, what it's for: data collection, licensing, consultation. It's how the tokens are going to be used. All right, data acquirers, businesses, that sort of thing, kind of in this sphere here. Here's the community, which with merchants and DOE, physical data, that sort of thing. Okay. These are all the players that interact with the ecosystem: community, public, private, physical stores, users, send, receive. You can kind of see that they've got this cool little rubric here Good stuff. So the XDT token will have the following functionalities. You can use it within the platform, benefit from participation, reward community members, reward the community members for sharing. You can benefit from discounts, make purchases, offer missions to the community. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Probably stuff we haven't even thought of yet. Okay? So on top of these functionalities, the XDT token guarantees the expansion and global adoption of the model. Okay? It'll democratize access to data for all players. It'll remove bank fees, which is super cool. And it'll democratize platform access to anyone, and especially those who do not have a bank account. All right. Here's some information on the token generation event. Okay, that's going to be something for you to look at. I'm not going to touch on that. That's pretty easy. I don't need to explain how the token generation event works. Token sale. We got, what is this? 1 billion. Tokens issued, 500 million. Token price, hard cap. We've got the public sales and pre-sales. That's coming up in October. So another month and a half or so. Information on some pre-sale here. Public sale, you can see here. Token distribution, 30% reserve, 50% for the token sale, 20% for investors, team, and bounty. Fund usage, you can see they've got it broken down here. They've got the roadmap, and we are right here. We have not hit the first point on the roadmap yet. The platform release and back office consolidation will be happening in Q4 of this year, so stay tuned for information on that. Cool little graph here about the roadmap goals for data collection and some history of the company. Okay, I'm not going to touch the history. You can read through that on your own. And then finally, we are here at team members. Okay, so that kind of wraps up. Dataeum here. A legal disclaimer. I really like this project. It's a lot of fun. A lot of what Dataeum is promoting is stuff that I personally already do. I use Google Guides quite a bit. I'm updating information when I go to a restaurant or whatever the case is. I like to keep the information up to date. So I'm already doing what Dataeum is proposing. I'm just not getting paid for it. So if I were, if I could get a notification from Dataeum that says, hey, update this information versus getting a notification from Google that says, hey, update this information, I'd much rather use Dataeum than Google. I really would. I mean, I like Google, don't get me wrong, but I'd much rather go with a decentralized vision than whatever it is Google's doing, whatever nefarious purposes they're creating on their end. So it's very cool. It's very exciting. I'm going to be following this project. I really think this is a fun project. It's just cool. And I think the ambition to collect 100% of the world's data is a noble endeavor. So, but anyway, that wraps it up for me. I hope you guys have a great weekend. It is Friday, about 5 o'clock here my time. So I'm going to let you guys get to your weekend, and I hope you have a great one. Again, questions, comments, concerns, please leave a comment. I will get back to you. I'd love to have a discussion on what you think Dataeum is going to be like in the future. Let us know, and we can discuss it. Take care, and have a great weekend, guys. Bye.